So the purpose of this presentation is to just kind of give an overview into the staffing that comprises our planning for K-12 classrooms. So as you can see, there's an average ratio. We look at our grade levels in bands. We look at K2, 3, 5, 6, 8, and then obviously high school. And as we know, the independence of our young students is sometimes not as great as that of our older students. So we're looking at our goal being a lower ratio for students who are younger. So you can see the average ratios in the K2 level are quite a bit lower than 3, 5, 6, 8, and 9, 12. Incidentally, these change on an ongoing basis as we continue to add students. So these figures were compiled about a week ago, and we have continued to add students in classrooms as well as reviewing staffing on an ongoing basis. So our role when we look at staffing from a central office perspective is we look at what we call projections, meaning we look at what we anticipate the enrollment being for the upcoming school year. And then these projections are turned into what the staffing or the teacher number should be, and then these are shared with principals. And then the plan for the following year is drafted in the spring, using the knowledge that we have at the time. So there are discussions between the executive directors and the principals, and principals look at certainly not only the students that are moving from one grade to the next, but we also look at what is sometimes unknown, which is kindergarten. We know that those students who are with us in preschool, the majority, if not all of them, will move up into kindergarten, but we're also looking at 2/3 of our kindergarten students are not enrolled in preschool with us, and so sometimes that number fluctuates. So the principals and the teachers at the school do some of the planning, because with enrollments at different grades, sometimes you're looking at a fluctuation in numbers, so there is not always an even number. Some years there are more kindergarteners than others, and as that number moves up through the grades, certainly the teachers who are assigned to a grade or who are moved from one grade to the next are looked at in terms of not only their background and experience, but also where we anticipate the students being.
So the next part of the presentation I just wanted to mention is really on split or multi-age or combination classes. It's called different things, and researchers have looked at differently. These sort of classes have been used in the district for a long time, so I'm not going to talk specifically about all the research, but I want to mention John Hattie, who's well known in the field and does a lot of research on effective teaching. And basically he's saying that it's really more about the teaching in the class and the specific configuration of the multi-age or the split. We also had Dr. Patterson, and again, I'm not going to read this, it is somewhat statistical, but I feel like we need to bring this forward, that basically he did a study in our district and looked at all the multi-age split classes in our district and found no difference. He actually found a little higher gains in classes that were split, but he can't consider that statistically significant, meaning it basically isn't even, so that there's no better or no worse overall as we look at that data. And we've actually asked him to do a long-term study in that area. So he's not only going to look at last year, but look at previous years and then come up with a report moving forward. And for this study, he looked at our NWA data, both the math and the reading. So other things with multi-age split classes. What I want to do is, rather than me reading, I have a student here, Layla Mustafa, and I'm going to ask her to come up. She is a former student of mine when I was principal at Duval Elementary in 5th grade. She's a current senior at Dearborn High. She also happens to sit on the Student Advisory Council to the Superintendent, and I know she's done some great work. And she happened to be part of the year, some of you might remember in 2010, January, where we literally had to lay off teachers mid-year and reconfigure classes in January. And we had to implement a lot of multi-age split classes. So I'm going to let her speak.
Hello, everybody. Okay, right. I'm a little tall. So as Mr. Maleyko said, my name is Layla Mustafa, and I'm a senior at Dearborn High School. And my 5th grade year at Duval Elementary School, I was put into a split class. And I know that there's sometimes a negative connotation that goes with split classes or combination classes, but personally, I had a great experience. One thing that I attest today to my 5th grade split class was the leadership that I have. Today I sit as vice president of my class as well as president of BPA, and I serve on many other clubs and organizations throughout my school. And I think because of my 4th, 5th grade split class, I worked with Dr. Maleyko actually in a student organization called DSBN, And basically it was a group of like 4 or 5 fifth graders, and we would go and interview teachers, and we would just make videos, and it was a lot of fun, and it was a lot of freedom for kindergartners to, fifth graders to have. And because of that, I think I gained so many leadership skills as well as the people that were with me. Also on the education-wise of 4th, 5th grade, so any split grade class, is a lot of times when you discover something independently, it sticks to you more. I still remember in 4th grade, like, I could never understand fractions from like 2nd to 3rd grade. Like, I was good at math, but fractions just, nothing clicked. And I still remember in 4th grade, I was just looking at like a piece of paper, and finally when I understood them, just it clicked, like everything worked. And because I did that on my own and it was an independent thing, it was something that really clicked for me, and it stuck with me. So don't worry, guys, I understand my fractions today. So I think there's a lot of beneficial things in split and combination classes. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. And she's very dedicated. I know she's a class tonight at 7:40, so you could go after. I told her just, she was still willing to come and do a favor, so I appreciate that. The research out in the field really says that there's really no difference in achievement, but again, you heard her anecdotal, her experience. That's my experience. I grew up in multiple split classes throughout my career, and some may say, well, I think I turned out okay. Some may disagree. I don't know. I see the laughs over there. But I generally am more positive to it. I've had great experiences both as an elementary, when I was principal, assistant principal, and I see that across the district. So we just wanted to get this out here so that when the parents and teachers and that hear of differences in achievement, it's really a fallacy. It's really not accurate. And some of the research that we referenced up here. But again, I know I've also spoken to some of the board trustees on that, and they've actually had positive experiences with their own children in split classes. So a lot of educators in the field and principals that could speak to that have gone through it, or their kids have gone through it. It's been a lot of positive. And so there's advantages. I don't want to go into all the specifics, but I am going to put this out there on the on the website, on my blog, so that we did present this before the Becker parents, but again, I want to allow all parents in the district to access this information. And it's just a quick summary of some of the the positive things in the district. Now, tonight we're voting on the strategic plan, and this is the thing you see on our, Students First, Inspire, Educate, Celebrate. That will always be at the forefront for us. We will put student interest first. But as the Finance Committee knows, we still are obligated to have a balanced budget. So when we look at split classes, that is a model that helps us to balance that budget and ensure that we do have enough teachers in all the schools. So.